Served our country. If you could lead us in the pledge, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd also like to indicate the proper notice has been given as required under our Ohio Revised Code 121.22. And we have a pretty robust agenda. I'm going to begin next, following the agenda, approving of our board meeting minutes from October the 12th, 2021. All of the minutes have been emailed or sent to the board members to review. Have you had an opportunity to review them, and are there any changes or in the minutes from that date?
I have no changes, Madam Chair. I'll move that we approve the board meeting minutes that were previously emailed to us.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone abstaining? That motion carries. Next, we're going to approve our ballot remakes. Terry, do you?
Yes.
Who's going to do that today?
Krista Criddle, Operations Administrator, will present the categories of remakes. These ballots were remade by bipartisan election officials in accordance with Secretary of State directive and board policy.
Thank you. Krista.
Thank you. So the first category of remakes that we have are UOCAVA ballots. Those are the ballots that are sent to our overseas and absentee voters. And they have the option to receive them by email. And so the ones that have been received by email, they print them out, send them back, but they're not obviously on our correct ballot paper and so forth. So we do have to remake those ballots, and those are done by a bipartisan team. Those remakes are A1 through A11 and A154 through A163. Would you want to see those, or?
I don't need to. We remake them in bipartisan teams, as you've indicated, and considering you guys have reviewed them, I'll move approval of ballots A1 through A11, ballots A154 through A163 as remade.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Abstaining? That motion carries. Thank you, Krista.
Thank you. The next category are ballots that have stray marks. These are ballots that are reviewed by the director and deputy director that indicate that they truly are a stray mark that has gone into a contest box that could preclude that ballot from scanning properly with the correct, how the voter had intended. It's just a smear or a stray mark on those. Those ballots are A12 through A65 and A114 through A153. Did you wish to see any of those ballots?
And I know that if there's a question about them, they typically go to the director and the deputy, and if there's a question beyond that, they're typically the ones that the director and the deputy deem to be close are brought for the board's review. Is that right?
Correct. And the deputy director and I did review all of those, and we did not have anything to present to the board.
Very good. With that, then I'll move approval of the ballots as that you've indicated as remade because of stray marks.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstaining? That motion carries.
Thank you. The next category that we have are damaged ballots. So they've returned to us. They may have stains, things on them. They may be torn, things like that, that we have to remake those ballots because they would not go through the scanner properly. Those ballots are A72 through A103.
I'll move approval of those torn or stained or otherwise damaged ballots as remade.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? That motion carries.
Thank you. The next category, we had one ballot that the voter was sent a ballot, and it was the voter had actually moved in the time once they had requested an absentee ballot, and then moved and presented a registration form within the proper time frame, but they were sent the ballot for the original precinct. However, those ballots were exactly the same contests, so that ballot was remade according to match the contest that they had voted for with their correct precinct, their updated precinct. That ballot is A66.
I'll move approval of ballot A66 as remade.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? That motion carries.
Thank you. The next category are the ballots that we call voter intent ballots. Those are ballots that the voter had made a mistake on their ballot and scratched it out, wrote a comment or a note about that, their error on the ballot, initialed it. All of these ballots have been reviewed by the director and deputy director, and they agreed upon the which way that ballot and that the error was made by the voter, so that we remake those ballots accordingly so that the voter's correct intent is indicated on the ballot. And those are ballots A67 through A71 and ballot A104 through A113. Would you wish to see any of those ballots?
So those ballots, again, were reviewed by the director and deputy, and there was clarity from both
That's correct.
parties? Yeah, okay. I'll move approval of those ballots as remade.
Second.
You know, one of the things, are you noticing an increase in putting little dittos where they've made an error? Because we've been educating them a lot in whenever we move around, how important it is if you make a simple error, how to clarify it and clean it up and initial it.
I don't know if there's an increase in that, but the ones that we have remade have done that. They've put error, no, put initials. It's clear. They write a little small note on there to indicate that they've made an error. I don't know if it's an increase. Obviously, we had a larger volume last year than we have this year, so it's kind of hard to tell, but.
Thank you. Have a motion. It's been seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? That motion carries.
That's all we have for now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Krista. Next on our agenda is approve logic and accuracy testing results. Sherry?
Yes, as the board is aware, staff conducts logic and accuracy testing multiple times throughout the election cycle. What you have in your packet today is the result of the public logic and accuracy test, which was conducted last Thursday. The hand count matched the electronic count, and so we're submitting those results for your approval.
Just for anybody who's watching or tuned in or whatever, Sherry, so we kind of run a mock election, basically, right?
Yes, what we do is we vote test ballots, making sure that every possible option on every ballot style receives votes.
Right.
And we run those through our tabulating system and produce electronic report. Then we have a different bipartisan team hand count all of those test ballots and compare them to the electronic count to make sure that it is a match. And that's a process we first conduct prior to the first ballot being mailed in the election. Then we conduct this public test, which we did last Thursday. We'll again conduct this test before the count begins tomorrow night and after the count is completed.
Thank you. Do we have to move to approve the L and A, or?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I'll move that we approve the logic and accuracy testing results that the board conducted.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed or abstaining? That motion carries. Next is submittal of resolutions to authorize utilization of the county-issued credit cards. Can you?
Yes, I think the deputy director is going to take this one.
Sure.
Thank you.
The Ohio Revised Code allows county agencies to use credit cards for certain uses, primarily that are relevant to this board is charges relating to software, charges related to employee travel, and charges relating to equipment rental. It's just one tool that makes kind of managing the operations of the department a little easier. Historically, this board has not taken advantage of this opportunity, but we've had a couple of needs expressed in recent months, specifically surrounding some of the software that we subscribe to that we can only pay by credit card. And most recently with equipment rental relating to this election, where it would have been easier, rather than have an employee put it on their personal card and be reimbursed, to have an agency credit card. So the process for this is for the commissioners to approve our use of the credit card. The limit on these particular cards is $5,000. And in the packet, you'll see the resolution has a budget for how we would use them over the course of a year. And so the motion that's in front of you is just to have this board authorize the director and myself to submit the resolution to the Board of County Commissioners, who in the coming weeks would, in theory, approve it, and then we could begin using the cards.
This is not anything new. I'm just amazed that we haven't had this before in the past, and it also clearly outlines the work-related expenses as guidelines so that everyone stays within the guidelines, which is good.
So just technically speaking, are we adopting the resolution, or are we submitting, we're submitting the resolution for adoption by the Board of County Commissioners?
Correct. You'll be making a motion for the director and deputy director to submit the resolution to the commissioners.
I'll make that motion, that we submit this resolution to authorize utilization of county-issued credit cards.
Second.
Okay, any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
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 Anyone opposed or abstain? That motion that resolution to authorize it passes. All right. Next on our agenda is basically an update on the November 2021 general elections. Who's going to provide that, Sherry?
Yes. So in regards to absentee voting by mail, the board has mailed over 18,000 absentee ballots. As of end of day Saturday, 68% of those had been returned to the board. Our early in-person numbers at the conclusion of yesterday's voting was 10,510 voters, and of course, early voting continues until 2 p.m. today. Staff is ready and prepared for Election Day tomorrow.
Fantastic. You guys have been busy. I mean, it's interesting to see how it trends at certain periods of time during the day. But we're still low, correct? Still around 30%.
So far, if we look at the early voting numbers, it's on track with where we were this time in the election cycle in the last similar election of 2017, and that was a 29% turnout. So
We have some work to do in preparation for the next mayoral votes. All right, thank you. Anyone else have any questions? All right. And next, we are declaring the polls open for the November the 2nd, 2021 general election at this particular point. And anyone have any other discussions or other business before I need a motion to go into personnel matters? To go into
I'll make a motion.
Oh, my
Sorry.
question, do we have to take a vote on declaring the polls open?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, okay, sorry, guys.
I'll make a motion that we declare the polls open at 6:30 a.m. tomorrow for the November 2nd, 2021 general election.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstaining? That motion carries. Thank you. Sorry. Next, we need a motion to go into executive session for personnel matters. So need a roll call.
I'll make a motion that we go into an executive session to discuss a personnel matter.
Second.
Mr. Bartlett?
Yes.
Mr. Transfever?
Aye.
Mr. Gerhart? Yes. Mr. Mallory?
Aye.
Thank you.
I'll move that we come out of executive session.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstaining? That motion carries. We have
I think we have to roll call on.
roll call, that's right.
Ms. McFarland?
Yes, present.
Yes.
Mr.
Aye.
Mallon?
Okay, we've been in executive session. Is there anything we need to discuss regarding the personnel matter?
I'd like to make a motion.
Yes.
I move that the Hamilton County Board of Elections terminate the employment of Alicia Moore as a registration official, effective immediately.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstaining? That motion carries. Thank you. Do we have any other business?
Not from staff?
Okay, our Secretary of State Liaison, Kenny, do you have any updates for us? Or it's good to see you this past Saturday with the Secretary of State here, if you want to.
Yeah, good morning. For the record, Kenny Henning with the Secretary of State's office. Just wanted to thank the director and deputy director and the board for allowing the secretary to come on Saturday. He appreciated spending some time with you in the morning and seeing the operations in place and meeting with the troubleshooters and the PEOs that were here for training. So he appreciated the opportunity. I know a lot of our focus the past 4 or 5 days has been PEO recruitment, and he was able to share that with the media partners that came and, stress the importance of signing up to work on Election Day. Kyle and everyone and PEO recruitment has been extremely helpful, so we thank them. Your staff here is amazing. And the social media also, the Board of Elections social media down here is just phenomenal. From the Mythbusters to putting out the new videos that you all did, it's been fantastic. So it's really encouraging for the other smaller boards to see that and see what you're doing and hopefully try to replicate it on some type of scale that they can also do. So that's all I have this morning.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank
I do
you.
have a matter of other business, whenever you're ready.
Yes. Mr. Trillifilio, you have
Yes.
some other business?
It's, and Sherry, I'm sorry, I'm surprising you with this maybe, but I would like for us to at least open up dialogue about what happens outside of the early voting center. I know there was an altercation here recently, police were called, et cetera. I know, and there's no greater defender that I know of than me of people's First Amendment rights to be heard, et cetera. But I think we have to balance that. So I don't know that I'm prepared to vote for any kind of a change. And I know it's a vexing problem here that we've all dealt with. But sometimes what goes on there, I'm not sure is conducive to actually getting people through and voting. And again, we've done a great job in early voting. All I'm going to say is I don't have any motioning like that, but I am going to say when there's a period of quiet, which there's never a period of quiet here at the board, but perhaps after this election, I just asked our director informally to sort of maybe benchmark what other big counties do in terms of campaigners near the early voting site and determine whether or not we stay the path with the bullpen, as we've called it, or we consider something else. And again, I'm not suggesting any drastic action, but I think we owe it again to the people who come here and vote, because I got to tell you, I hear it from voters myself, just about sort of the chaotic nature of what they see when they come in, and I think the bullhorns can be heard sometimes inside the polling location, which I think is problematic. And I think this year is one thing. I think as we move toward a midterm next year, and then ultimately toward another presidential, I've asked the director just to find out what other big counties are doing, and maybe report that back to the board. So. That's the only thing I have on other business.
That's been a concern of mine as well, and not only what our voters see, but what they hear and what they have to deal with when they're coming through to be able to cast their ballots. And I have asked both Sherry and Alex to revisit this, and I would not be surprised that perhaps we'll, as usual, maybe the trendsetters to get provide some structure and safety for our voters when they come through, if we could look at as well what you suggested, but also put together some guidelines so that, and we stick with those guidelines and be consistent. So I agree. It's, at some point we have to say enough is enough. And I think today and yesterday and whenever the altercations have happened, and Sherry and Alex go out there and put they're on the front line too, trying to maintain some order and and respect from those individuals out there as well. So I think we need to have, and they'll work on it, hopefully some guidelines that we can look at so that we can be prepared for the primaries before that. Joe, do you have any?
No, I mean, it definitely needs review. It started out as a solution to try to address a safety issue when we had the voting in the front of the building, which was closer to Wall Street, and it has grown. And I can't, blame the candidates and the people that are the campaign workers out there. They're being creative. There were no real clear guidelines, and they were being creative with how they utilize the space, but it creates friction with opposing candidates and even sometimes opposing parties with some of the comments, the commentary that is spewed back and forth at each other, and some people, get aggressive and they're very assertive. The traffic issue is another concern because having them in this one space, if we get rid of the space, they're roaming all around the entire parking lot. And that's a safety issue to me because people are coming in and out trying to vote and trying to park. And contained to one space, I think it addresses the safety issue. But if we get rid of the space that we had designated as a neutral zone, a campaign neutral zone, if you get rid of that, then we're back to placing 10-foot markers 100 feet from the space, and people can roam around this entire building, and it's a safety issue. So I know they have their rights, their constitutional rights to free speech and all that, but I think we don't want to get a black eye from someone getting hit by a car, walking in trying to run somebody down and give them, a piece of campaign material, and then the voters, don't want to feel intimidated coming through a gauntlet of people just so they can go and cast their vote. So I heard both sides when I worked here, and I saw the space has grown, and the creativity of the candidates out in that what we call the bullpen. Something we have to come up with a solution that is acceptable, in my mind.
Well, it may not be acceptable to a lot of people, but we have to come up with, and that's what your challenge is, you and Alex, to work on looking at that, because it's moved from not just being assertive, but it's moving to becoming aggressive. And at some point, we have to take a position and put some guidelines in place. So I'm looking forward to you guys working on that and coming up with some type of guidelines so that that's workable.
And obviously, our council will have to determine what's legal and what's constitutionally sound, because I think that obviously we have to balance the constitutional implications of any restrictions that we put on anybody's ability to speak out. So,
and also additionally, I don't want us to be like the bully that is trying to potentially arrest somebody because they're not staying within the guidelines of what they're supposed to stay in. I hate to see that at a voting location. So,
but there were attempts last year. People wanted us to do that, and we restrained ourselves and didn't do that. That purpose, they wanted us to take that next step so that we would get to that position. And I think our step should be putting guidelines in place, and therefore you've got the guidelines, you've got the structure, and people abide by it and move forward. Thank you. So any other business? We're going to stand in recess, and as well, we will reconvene tomorrow evening, Tuesday, November the 2nd at 6:30. Future meetings are Tuesday, November the 16th, 2021 at 8:30. Thursday, November the 18th, 2021 at 8:30 a.m. We will be going into recess at that particular point and reconvening at 2 p.m. And then on Friday, November the 19th at 2021 at 3 p.m. And possible recount dates are Wednesday, November the 24th, 2021 at 8:30 a.m., Monday, November the 29th, 2021 at 8:30 a.m. And we'll see you all tomorrow.
I'll move that we stand in recess.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstaining? That motion. We are in recess. We are in recess.